their wisdom and their capacity to lead. And again, we are so grateful. And this morning, as we honor Father's Day and Men's Day, and we honor those male elders in our congregation who we are so grateful for. And when I look at the people in this room, dedicated, playful, talented, faithful, in whatever way that's defined for them, extremely loyal, hardworking, open to change, and yet cherish traditions and those things that we value. I am so grateful for the people that we have here and the people that we especially honor today. And we have a very special time this morning as we celebrate Grant and Sydney Budgeon here with us. And they are going to share a little bit about their journey individually and perhaps together about their God-given gifts as writers and what they have done and how we might be inspired by their journey and their story. And so I would like to invite Sydney and Grant to come forward. And here's some, it was really fun looking for pictures. How do you tell a story about Grant? Now I did find, Grant, that you are in a video introducing yourself as a member of the Crossfield community and as a farmer, but I couldn't copy it, wouldn't let me, so I couldn't show that. So I picked the next best thing, the playful side of Grant, the handsome side of Grant, and the partner side of Grant. Those pictures represent everything about who Grant is for us and how we experience him in this congregation. And then we have his daughter, Sydney, who is an accomplished graduate. She inspired us like you would not believe. There was not a dry eye in the place when she was here last time and spoke to us about her experience in Washington, D.C., participating in a peaceful protest march for the Black people in the community. And it was very, very inspiring. We will remember that Sunday, Sydney, for the rest of our lives. And Sydney is on her own journey. She's going over to Amsterdam in August. Is it August, Sydney? Yeah. So we're sad that we're going to lose her for a while, but we hope she comes back. I'm sure she will, because her family ties are really strong. But I welcome you to come forward, and we're going to talk about their passion for writing. And there's microphones for each of you as well. So we need to make sure that, I think it's 8-6 is on. So I sent Sydney and Grant a set of questions, the same for both of them. And what I'm going to do is ask them the question. But the first one, I'm going to start with you, Grant. You can start off. What is your first memory of wanting to be or discovering you had a gift as a writer?
What order is that?
I think we have to. It's number 6.
Oh, I thought you were 6.
Oh, it should be 8. So I've gone and labeled that wrong. Sorry, it should be 8. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Good. We want to be able to hear your answers. So sit back and relax too. This is not a test.
That's good. It's been a while.
It may feel like.
That's a hard question. I've been thinking about it, and I don't know if I ever had that aha moment or anything profound. But I guess I've always, thinking back, always kind of had the ability to BS. So I kind of take that as maybe what you need to have as a writer. I'm told as I was a young child that I would tell great stories and go on, even though they didn't make any sense always. But and I guess just always had an interest in stories and reading and stuff when I was young. When I got into kind of junior high years, kind of it wasn't cool to read and stuff, so I quit reading for quite a number of years. But I had an English teacher in grade 12 that kind of encouraged us to get back reading, and so I started reading again. Ever since then, I've loved reading, and so I kind of take that as part of writing and stuff. So we really didn't get into writing too much until we got involved with the theater group, for writing, for fun, I guess you'd say. That's kind of when I started picking it up again. It was more of at first a necessity. We needed stories, and so we collaborated as a group, and I kind of got, it was very exciting to get into that, learning how to write and trying to produce something that people would find interesting.
So you had a sense of it, but it wasn't really definitive for you as you were growing up.
No, and I mean, when I was going through school, I was more of a science and math kind of kid, and just did the writing because it was required kind of a thing. So I at that point didn't really think that it was ever something I'd want to get into on a bigger basis. So it's more in the last 10 years kind of exploring that artistic side of my brain that is when I kind of brought that out. I mean, yeah.
Good, thank you. That's kind of a surprise. I'm surprised to hear that in some ways.
Yeah,
So
it's part of, I guess, personal development.
Yeah, absolutely. Sydney, what about you? Now you have won literary awards in Alberta and beyond. So what was your first inkling of being a writer that you remember?
I don't think there was a revelation either. I think it started from, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's about storytelling. I mean, writing is kind of a vehicle for a skill that you kind of either have or you don't have as soon as you can talk, I suppose. And I think when I was learning to read, my parents said that I would change the sentences, and I kind of had the arrogance that I could write it better. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say the arrogance has followed me to now. But
Confidence is maybe a better word.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, I started, and then as soon as I could learn how to write, I knew I wanted to write. And I remember being in grade 2 and writing stories, and then in the last creative story I was allowed to write was in grade 7, and I was really sad about that. And after that, they're like, nope, serious English now, essays, and which essays are fantastic too, but creative narrative has definitely always been more of a drive for me. So yeah, and then, they just didn't stop.
That's an interesting comment that you made, that after grade 7, the school system doesn't see that capacity to write a creative story as a gift, and changes it to more the academic kind of line. I find that really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's really too bad.
So would you say that, like your dad, that ability to BS is part of it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, I think it's something we all inherited.
Yeah.
Now we know, and we know the dignified side of the family, so we know the other side, probably the ability to dish it out, because I've experienced it too. So you do come by it honestly, right? But in all seriousness, there is a talent in being able to be playful with people in a fun way, which is very much what Fred is like. You never know what the truth is, but it's always an entertaining journey, right, to go on it. Right. So Sydney, when you started then, how did you you kind of answered a little bit of question too. How did you respond to this for you? Like, what did it do to you from the inside out?
Well, I think my relationship with writing has changed quite a bit. And when I thought I was very good at it, and I was more arrogant when I was younger, I guess.
Confident.
I was convinced that I had to, to do it for the fame. I don't know. I was very convinced that I could write a novel when I was like 13. But later on, I think I realized what it did to me spiritually and just in other ways. I mean, how you feel when you're writing. And like you do have like that sense of high. I'm the type of writer who will write through the night, just to get the story done. And it's kind of like you're being seized by something, and you're just in a way, the vehicle for that story and how that is being communicated. And I think it's just meaningful engagement. I mean, we do so many things in our life to pass the time or to, to kill time, I guess is what we call it. But there's something about having, I don't know, having a hobby even, or having I guess you can call it a gift to work on something and you realize that 7 hours have gone by and it doesn't even, it nurtures you in a way, in your mind, in a way that, I don't know.
I think that's a wonderful answer, and I love that you use, there's a spiritual element to it, because we misunderstand what spirituality is really about, but that sense of, there's something calling you inside to get it out.
Yeah,
and you can't not do it.
I think most writers would describe that the stories come to them in a way, and they just, and they can't even, I mean, the one thing I wish I did more is kept a journal about when I first get ideas and how those ideas snowball and evolve. But I don't really do that. It just happens so quickly. And yeah, and then everyone asks you, oh, how did you get this idea? Like, I don't remember.
What about you, Grant? When you first had that inclination, how did you react to that revelation as a writer, or that budding creativity?
I guess the first time that I kind of had like something like that where it came to me was the first play that we wrote. And we had met with the drama teacher at WGM, who was kind of helping us on this path as a group of neophytes in the drama production side of things. And she said, either you can buy a story off the internet or you can write one. So we kind of had looked at buying one off the internet, and there was nothing that really fit for a small town. And so there were a lot of either Shakespeare or fantasy plays about aliens and stuff. And I thought, well, that's not going to work. So we had met, and so we decided, yeah, we're going to write a story. So that night I got home from the meeting, and Dad called me. He said, we got some cattle at Innisfail. We've got to go pick them up. So I said, okay.
Practicality sets in, huh?
So I jumped in the cattle truck, and I drove up to Innisfail. So on the way, I remember as drama teacher, had said, write about something that would pertain to a small town, like maybe some kind of event or whatever. And so I got thinking about, well, what happens in Crossfield? Well, not a heck of a lot, but one annual thing that does happen is our rodeo. So I just got thinking about this, and all of a sudden, this whole storyline came to me in the 45 minutes it takes to drive to Innisfail. By the time I got up there, I had 7 or 8 of the characters sketched out, and kind of the whole beginning and middle. I didn't have the end figured out, but it just kind of came to me. And so when I got home, I thought, I got to write this down. So I wrote down the characters and the plot line and stuff like that. And then we met the next week, and with the drama teacher, and she says, anybody have any ideas? And so everybody kind of went, well, and they were looking at the ceiling. I said, well, I kind of got this, and I handed this 2-page synopsis out, and she's like, holy moly, like, that's pretty good. So then from there, we, as a group, worked on it. So it was kind of interesting how it just, like Cindy said, just kind of spills out of you, and you don't even know where it comes from.
You don't even know where it comes from.
Yeah.
And just for those, WGM is W.G. Murdoch High School, and the story he's telling is the beginning to the first Crossfield play in 2010, which was Rodeo Blues, and it was hilarious. I mean, the first thing I said to Grant after we did the production is to get it copyrighted.
Yeah.
Because it was so well done.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like both of you, though, what you hold in common, and I don't know whether you've shared this with each other, but that sense of, I don't know where it comes from, but it comes to me, and I feel so inspired that I can't get it down fast enough, and the results prove its authenticity. Right, but that must have been a huge surprise for you too, that experience, or was it a surprise?
Oh yeah, it was a huge surprise that something like that could exist, in your mind. Mm-hmm. I'm always been like a big fan of reading and movies and stories and TV and that kind of stuff. I always was amazed at how people could come up with these stories, mm-hmm. and the details and the new ideas and stuff, and then to kind of be a very small part of that was really interesting for me. And I can, since then we've been working, our group has been working more and more to developing stories and how do you write a good story. I mean, having been involved in the acting process and stuff, you really can identify when you hear actors say that it's the story that's so important, and it is really, once you try to take something that's on a page and translate it into a show or an action, and trying to get people to engage and to be entertained, because that's kind of the writing we're doing, is entertainment writing. That good story is so important, and the basis in. And as an actor, you can't, it's hard to buy into a story that isn't good.
Yeah.
And I sometimes you watch something on TV and it was just garbage, and you're thinking, oh, how did that actor ever even get through it? Because they must have been rolling their eyes the whole time, but I guess it's a paycheck, so you learn how to put up with it. But it's so much easier when you've got a good story that you buy into. And I know when we're practicing with our group, to me, it's a good sign that it's a good story when we've been rehearsing for 6 weeks and people are still giggling, reading their lines, like after they've done it 1,000 times and they're still laughing. You think, okay, this is still good. It's gonna be a successful show. So.
And so for those of you that know, or those of you that don't know, the Artists of Crossfield Theatre Society has been in existence now for 4 years, and they have done 4 productions. And this year, in 2015, the play was sold out before the tickets went on sale. And so now next year they're going to have 2 performances in the evening. But the success of what you've accomplished and even how it's grown, although I think Rodeo Blues will always be a favorite for me, I don't see it as a lesser quality play at all. But the acting team really has grown and developed. So, Sydney, you are in an academic environment. What do you see as the primary differences between academic writing for yourself personally and creative writing? Do you see an overlap there, or how do you deal with those 2 different kinds of outcomes?
That's a good question. Academic writing can be a little hard sometimes for me compared to creative writing. Because of the details and because of, you're using other people as your evidence. And there's no writing in the undergrad level where you're coming up with your own ideas. With creative writing, I'm literally the master of everything. And I can call the shots on every sort of angle and character. And it doesn't, in the first draft, I think it's a bit of you're indulging yourself in a lot of ways. It isn't until you get comments back or you get your peers to read it that you're kind of now beholden to, as a responsibility as a writer, to improve it and to maybe challenge yourself in a way that you didn't anticipate. I know in my academic writing, though, I did have a few professors ask me if I was a creative writer. They could tell. And I was like, oh no. That's not good. But they said it was fun to read, and there's something about my writing that maybe, the more creative quality can transcend some of that really dry academic prose. I'm hoping anyway.
There is a difference, isn't there? And I think there's a bias, because I remember when I wrote my thesis, I was told by my thesis advisor that you can take a thesis and turn it into a book, but you can't take a book and turn it into a thesis. And one of the things that I got criticized, but I stuck with it a little bit, is that my thesis was a bit too anecdotal. And yet for me it had to be grounded in real experience. And so, yeah. It's an interesting bias, though, isn't it, that the academic world has. So do you find that frustrating, or I guess you don't have a choice, do you?
No. I appreciate academic writing because it challenges me in ways that I should be challenged. if it's forcing me to be more terse with my language, if it's forcing me to I don't know, I guess be, or it simply just requires me to follow, I don't know how to explain it, to follow, I guess, a tradition. Whereas with creative writing, I'm always tempted to strike out on my own, which is really great, but I mean, in a way, you kind of have to follow the best. And as a writer, I think you, like as a musician, you would start by playing the music of people who have been great musicians. You wouldn't just start off writing your own stuff. So academic writing, for me, that's how I kind of view it. If I'm mimicking great writers, even if they're just great academic writers, at least I'm learning something in a way. And whether I choose to take it into my other styles, then like that's up to me later, but at least I know how.
So what I'm hearing you say is one does inform the other in some ways in the world
Yeah,
that you're
for sure.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you now, because you have received literary awards, what do you define as success for yourself as a writer?
Yeah, that's changed. Like I mentioned earlier, I think that when I was younger, I used to think that success had to mean like, selling millions of copies of the greatest whatever novel. You can go into any chapters today and see that 90% of it is probably just paperback. I don't want to say garbage, but you don't have to be a great writer to be published. That's the sad thing. And you don't have to be a great writer to be well-read. So when I kind of realized that in university, I realized that I just wanted to be impeccable with my craft to the way to be true to myself, I suppose. You also want to reach an audience. You don't want to be too inaccessible, and my professors have criticized me for that before. That sometimes my prose can be too rich, or it can be too demanding of the reader. And I've read stuff like that too. In all my creative writing classes, you get to write for others, but you also have to read what everyone else writes. And that is a huge teaching experience. So I've read a lot of stories that have been totally indulgent or just over the top or just very inaccessible. Great to write things exactly the way you want to, but you have to compromise. But you can still do it in a way that stays true to the original story, and probably is definitely going to better it. Because writing isn't just, it's not just the writer writes it and then it goes out to the reader. It's relationship between the reader and the writer. Through feedback, either reviews or when you first get it read, and the second time you get it read, the third time you get it read. Yeah. So the engaging aspect, I think, is the most successful aspect. And I think that, I guess if there was one moment where I kind of felt like, oh, I've done it, was when I was at the Writers Guild of Alberta Awards. I was being nominated for a travel nonfiction piece that I wrote when I was in Italy. And I had a woman from Huffington Post quote my own line back to me, because she was part of the committee that decided who was going to get the award. And it was before I even know before I had even been awarded it, and I had sat down and she was like, "Oh, you wrote that line," and I was like, "Yes."
So that was definitely a sign of success.
Yeah, it's still about recognition and all that stuff, but one-to-one, even if she was a nobody and, it didn't matter if she was from Huffington Post, she remembered something that I'd written, so, and she'd engaged with it, so, yeah.
Just out of interest, the pieces you wrote that won awards, can you sort of just share, how much compromising did you have to do between what you believe about yourself as a writer and that balance with the public accessibility, all of those things? About what percentage would you say you had to play with that?
Well, it depends. I think the first one I won a university award for, this isn't a very good example because my professor told me to change an integral part of the story and I refused. And then he ended up respecting me enough to give me the award anyway. So that's not a very good example, but later on, I mean, with the one that won the Writers Guild of Alberta award, it was a very small percent. I think it was just in the nuances of how it was written. The general idea and the way that it was written was okay. And the professor that I had for that class too, we'd playfully argue about things like constantly, and he really didn't like the piece I'd written before that. So then I was like, fine, here's something you'd like to hear, and he was like, this is brilliant. So, it was still a story that I really enjoyed writing. And then the last one that I actually was recognized for, and my last story of my career at the U of A, was a total rewrite from the first draft. And the first draft was just an exploratory, I knew it wasn't very good. I just wanted to see what people, or how they reacted. And then they told me exactly what I thought they would tell me, and I had to rewrite the whole thing. So it's different from story to story, I think. But I mean, I'm definitely in a phase as a writer where I'm still exploring and I'm still trying things out. And in the case of that first story, the way I'd written it was from the perspective of a man who couldn't speak English, but everyone else in the story could. So anything that was actually in dialogue, I'd written, what do you call it when I'm forgetting the word. As it had been sounded out. I wrote it all in syllables.
Mm-hmm. Phonetically, yeah.
Yes, of course,
yeah.
Thank you. I'd written all of the dialogue phonetically, and the professor was like, nobody can read this. And I was like, that's the point. So, I mean, it's just like about exploring and trying new things, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
I'm really grateful for what you've said, because it sounds like it's a metaphor for life in so many ways. As there are times when we say, no, I'm not changing it. I believe at the core of who I am that this is what I need to do. And then there are those other times where you're open and receptive to feedback from other people, because you recognize within that it'll make you better at your craft or what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
But it's a tricky balance, isn't it? Because especially in an academic environment where there are certain expectations. So thank you for sharing that. That's really wonderful.
They do have one expression in all my writing classes where they do say it's like murdering your babies. And there's some things that in your story that you hold on to so dearly,
Yeah.
that the other people who read it, they're like, this is great, but it doesn't really belong here, and you have to kill it. But I mean, that doesn't mean whenever I kill a baby, I take it out of the story and I put it in this other document that has all my murdered babies, and one day I'll just write stories based on those alone, it's just setting it aside for later.
Well, thank you very much. Grant, how would you answer that question about how would you define success for yourself as a writer?
Probably bar sales.
That's really academic, isn't it? In its own way.
Yeah, because
You're not drinking to get away from the story.
No, we're writing for a whole different reason, I guess. We're for entertaining a crowd, and I guess our writing it's all collaborative, which makes it different than what Sydney does. And I think that is its own kind of beast, and it's interesting because, and I don't know how, you watch a really funny movie or TV show and it's written by one person. I think, how did that person come up with all those ideas themselves? Because we'll come into, as a group, there'll be 4 or 5 of us writing, and somebody will have a little nugget of an idea, like, what if the character said this or did this? And then all of a sudden someone goes, oh yeah, and then what if they did that? And then the third person goes, oh, and then if they did this? And by the time we're done, we are on the floor laughing so hard, because we're like, this is just totally ridiculous and amazing and all that stuff. And the person that came up with the first idea is like, I never visioned it getting to where it ended up. And we never would have got there if it wasn't all 4 minds or 5 minds sitting around bouncing ideas off each other. And so that in itself is such an amazing process to be a part of, because it just is, there's so many surprises that come out of that. And you're thinking to yourself, you know, this is brilliant. I never would have come up with this on my own. But without the contribution of everybody, it wouldn't have got there either. So it's a little bit different that way. But again, we're just, for me, success is that at the end of a performance, if everything went really well and people are talking about it, you know, for weeks after or whatever, or saying, I want to come back next year, because that's one thing that we're always very aware of, is that people are spending their hard-earned money to come and see our show. And we as a group of writers and performers have an obligation to give the people their money's worth, because you're asking a lot. I mean, people work hard to get the money in their jeans, and they're going to turn that over to you. And they have faith that they're going to get that back and more. And that's what I want to give them back 10 times what they paid us. So at the end of the night, if everybody had enjoyed themselves, as a writer, you know that you had a small part of that. And because it doesn't happen, if you don't write a good story, then your actors don't buy in. And if your actors don't buy in, then your audience isn't engaged as well. And so that's kind of my definition of how we've done.
And it's interesting too, because yours is more a solitary experience, although you do have advisors or professors like you've talked about, and yet yours defines synergy, that what you produce is greater than the sum of each individual brings to it, and that can be very exciting as well. That's very, it's a very powerful experience.
Yeah, now we do writing on our own too a little bit. Like we'll take it away and say, okay, we need to work on parts of it. And so as a person, you go, oh, I had an idea, and Sydney had told me this idea about murdering your babies, and as a part of a team, you got to keep that in mind as well, because sometimes you go, oh, I really like this idea. I really think we should go down this path, and if we kind of work by democracy, and if the other 3 or 4 writers don't see it, then you kind of swallow your pride and go, okay, they don't get it, they're not buying into this idea, I'll just have to let it go. So you kind of got to pick your battles, or if there's one you really stay, no, this is really going to work, and you kind of got to have a bit of a negotiation with everybody to kind of keep that idea going, and it's a very interesting process.
How do you see all of this for both of you making a difference? Both for yourself and the community and the world?
Well, I always hope that my stories will cause people to discuss things. I mean, every story is different, and every story is written for a different reason, so it's kind of hard. Sometimes it's just purely for me, and other times I do kind of have an agenda or a reason why I'm talking about it, and I hope that other people kind of consider it. I guess for making a difference, I don't know, it's hard. I mean, I think that as a writer, I actually have more guilt about writing things that I shouldn't than writing things that I should. I think that there's a responsibility as a writer that we should talk about what do we have the right to write about. And I have to be aware that as a white woman in a first world nation, a bit of privilege setting trait characters is honestly is having to check that at the door or to check it when it should be checked and to remember it when it should be remembered. It's hard because you don't want to assume anyone's identity, and you don't want to take on the perspective of anyone that you haven't walked in their shoes. So I think if I want to make a difference on the world, I want to be a writer who people aren't going to look back 100 years from now and think like that was archaic or that's a reflection of the time. I need to be impeccable with my word, and I have to, no matter what kind of stories I write and how they affect people, as long as they stand the test of time as being something that was done as well as it could be. I am absolutely terrified of someone, I don't know, reading something like 50 years from now and being like, oh, she didn't know any better. So, yeah.
Well, that's a heavy responsibility that you've laid on yourself,
Yeah.
because we all learn and grow and develop, and our society changes. Yeah, well, good. But I really appreciate the ethical standards that you've set for yourself, because that's critical, especially personally for you as a person of integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, comedy is a completely different kind of experience. What difference do you believe you make, Grant?
Well, I just want to be part of a group of people that want to make a difference in their community, I guess. And the way I guess I define success is that if I can assist this group of people in kind of meeting their own personal needs, I guess. And you can define that different ways. I think part of write good stories, assisting a group of actors that want to show their talents and discover their own talents and perform and we've got so many people that if I'd asked them if they ever thought they'd end up on stage performing or helping us backstage or whatever it takes to put on the show, would have said no. I never would have thought in a million years that I could do this. Like we've brought out some really creative, amazing, talented people that have surprised themselves. And I get such a thrill out of being a part of a group that helps them discover something new about themselves. And the third thing would be this group of people are also giving back to the community, and that's a big part of what we do, is wanting to raise funds and stuff like that to help develop, I think, kind of a missing piece of Crossfield's character, and that's the artistic side. And so we're working towards helping visual artists grow their skills and other types of art in town, and really the sky's the limit kind of on what we can do there. I view our organization as a group of people that are there to nurture other groups, and so we're working towards doing more and more of that, kind of being a conduit to help make Crossfield a little better place to live. And so that's this, writing is just a very small part of that. It's kind of like the tip of the iceberg kind of thing for me. So, and who knows where it's going to take us, because it just keeps evolving and changing. And as we bring more people underneath our umbrella, it just keeps surprising us. And that's a big thrill for me, to be a part of bringing out things that people didn't even know they could do themselves or wanted to do and just didn't feel they had the avenues to pursue it. So that's just...
I think you're being a bit modest. An event and look forward to in Crossfield, and there wasn't that before.
No, I'm amazed. Well, it's been going for 7 years, the general concept. We were working with the school for the first 3 years, and then as an adult group for 4 years. So I'm surprised and grateful that we've had such a good response in the last 4 years of doing it on our own. And I never would have thought, that we'd be anticipating selling out 2 nights in 5 years of starting this. So that is just a testimony to the talent of the people that we have in our group and the dedication, because it's a lot of work for people to commit to, and we don't 10 or 12 rehearsals between when we start and people don't know their lines to when we're up on stage throwing
A miracle.
I know, every year I'm amazed, but as we've done this for a number of years, I've gotten to the point now where I have such confidence in our group that I get up on stage and I go, it's going to work, it's going to work. we may have a few hiccups and people might miss a few lines, but in the big picture, it doesn't matter because people pull it off and it goes forward, and the audience most times doesn't even know we've made a mistake. So, and bar sales helps.
There's more questions here, but you know what, we've run out of time, and that's unfortunate because this about yourself on the journey, how you've made a difference in the lives of other people, and what a gift it is. And I hope that you will hold in your heart, as you've shared and reflected with these people here that love you and are proud of you, that you do that will mean, and that you will continue to nurture it and develop it, because as you do that, it continues to be more and more of a gift to us and to the community. So thank you so much for sharing your writing from the inside out. This has been truly special. Thank you, and let's show our gratitude and appreciation for the time. And we wish you well in your ongoing journey. And so as we continue on in our service, let us show, Sydney and Grant have been very open and honest with us. And the song that we have chosen, which was a special request for this Sunday, which I think is perfect, is To Show by Touch and Word. Let us sing this song together. And we'll stand for this one.
To show by touch and word devotion to the earth, to hold in high regard all life that comes to bear. We need, O God, the will to find the good you had of old in mind. Renew our minds to our hearts to long for truth, till pride of self is lost. For every challenge that we face, we need your guidance and your grace. Let love from day to day be ours to and let our lives portray our word in human form. Now come with us that we may have your wits about us where we live.
Aren't those words just absolutely as a reminder that it's only because of your generosity that we are able to serve this community and serve each other. And also a reminder that the summer is a downtime in attendance, and so we really appreciate being on par or post-dated checks. So thank you very much. Let us stand and sing our offering song together. Spirit, open my heart. As you love me, I love in receiving and in giving. Spirit, open my heart. Words of dedication. effective, we must have the resources we need to venture out. It is through our gifts that we are enabled to share the wisdom and insights of our faith for our time. Through our kindness, compassion is shared. Through our compassion, those who grieve are comforted. Those who are despairing receive hope. Those who are hungry are fed. God's blessing of these gifts goes with them into the world. We are grateful. Amen. Anyway, that's okay. So, this is a special time in our service where we come forward to light candles for the community, and I'm just going to go and sneak and get some more candles.
That have now been separated, unfortunately. I think one is here and the other one is in Didsbury after probably 65 years together, so it's very sad.
Who is that, Gail?
Josie and Frank Heck,
Oh, I don't.
friends.
And beyond. I like these two for a set of friends that have and are in the final process of maybe being able to adopt a new baby who might be born today or tomorrow. The other one is for the birth mom and the sperm donor. Life changes, and we all know, or we've had an opportunity to know someone who has had to make a choice. And this lady has chosen and then has regret, and then she has maybe doubt that she's made the right decision. But we're in the final stages of, and we're hoping that she will be able to have a peaceful birth and be able to transition this baby into what would be great hands of love. And so keep Charlie and Lisa in your prayers as this unfolds this week. Thank you.
As we consider National Aboriginal Day, I would like to light a candle for the 6,000 children residential school custody that most of us were not aware of until the Truth and Reconciliation report came out, and it's quite a shock for us to learn those statistics and to learn that reality for those children. I would also like to light a candle for the folks in South Carolina from Emmanuel Methodist Episcopal Church who had a tragic loss this week rooted in racism. And the part that's scary, most scary for me, is the age of the person who committed the assault on these people, 20, and I would hope a 20-year-old would know better. And it addresses for us the need to create education and circles of influence. I don't care where you live, I don't care who you are, in what country, whatever, but to say this cannot happen. It cannot happen. And the sadness for the American people, although they perpetuate it themselves in their attitudes, because they will not acknowledge racism the way it is, but we also need to acknowledge racism within our own country. And so none of us are immune to the conditions that set these kinds of situations up, but for us also to feel grateful for the safety we have here. Not that we haven't had people who have got issues come in to be among us, but overall we can gather and worship together and know that we are safe. And so there's lots going on. I'd also would like to light a candle for neighborhoods. In Calgary, Mayor Nahadnenshi, in response to the neighborhood response to the 2013 floods, encouraged people to gather and to celebrate neighborhoods. And my cul-de-sac has been doing this now for over 12 years, so we gathered on Friday night and had lots of fun, and I didn't get to bed till 12:30. I'm still in recovery mode. And we started at 5, so you can imagine, and you want to talk about alcohol consumption over a period of time like that, with ending the night with shooters, but around a fire, but how much fun it is, and to get to know, and there was two brothers from Albania who have moved into the neighborhood, and just saying about how important this is. And in Europe, people know each other more than we do in North America, and so it's a good model to live out. And also today as an example, when we take the time to questions about who they are, that's how we develop empathy and compassion and friendship. We care about those people. As long as we keep them in a distance and we don't know them, we're not responsible for them anymore. So I think today has also been a model of how we can overcome bias, prejudice, or whatever, is just taking the time. I also would like to light a candle for Barb, bless her little heart, and her leadership in my absence. So there are things to be concerned about and things to celebrate. Let us take a moment for prayer. And I just want to acknowledge this is a prayer that comes from David Lander from Castleton, Grafton Congregation or Pastoral Charge in Ontario. I was glad when they said unto me, let's go to church. You'll find good friends there, good songs, prayers, stories, readings of God's wisdom, and discussion of human problems that are timeless. It's an opportunity to connect to the faith of your grandparents and greats and the God they saw as guiding them. Hopefully you'll find a home here and a sense of peace. For amidst all of the crazy routines of our daily journey in this place, there is time to be in tune with yourself, in tune with the community, and in tune with God. So I was glad when my friend said to me, would you come to church with me? We celebrate God and life and the community of faith, of values and dreams. We gather to worship. We celebrate the gifts of our members. We are especially grateful for Grant and Sydney Budgeon and the many ways that they share who they are as writers, with creativity, imagination, playfulness, and spirit. They are wonderful sources of inspiration, and we are most proud of their accomplishments. We are also grateful for special guests. Becky Charette, who comes from that faraway place in the north, Edmonton, to lovingly disrupt us in the spirit of friendship, adventure, and mutuality. We are also grateful that she may come back and disrupt us again. And we wish her faith community in Otwell, well as fellow travelers on the journey. We love it when Lori comes to visit her family because she comes to visit us too. And we are those opportunities in the future. We're also grateful for Aidan, who brings his technical gifts with him now and into the future as we strive to be a relevant congregation in times of change. We are grateful for the men in our lives and in this congregation and in our communities who serve as our mentors and elders. We are better because of them, and we give you thanks for their gifts and their commitment to us and our well-being. As your people of faith, we go out into your world, remembering and enacting the words that Jesus taught us in this universal prayer of wisdom and grace, as we say together, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the found and glory, forever and ever. Amen. I'm very aware of the time, and I wish time was endless, but it isn't. So I think we're just going to sing one verse of the next song, then we have a video, and then we can gather together for coffee, friendship, and fellowship. This is a beautiful song, Bring Many Names, who walks us through the different generations and what each contributes to the world. And also to understand that God didn't know everything when God started either, that God is a model for learning, growing, and developing. And so let us sing just the first verse of this, Bring Many Names, one of my favorite songs. Bring many names, celebrate in paradise. I'm going to ask you to advance to the next slide, and we'll do our commission, and then we'll go back to the video, okay? Can you do that? Yeah. Let us share in this commissioning, remembering who we are, whose we are, and as evidenced in our discussion today, how the Spirit grabs holds of us. And despite our reservations and anxieties and fear, we go out into the world as gifted people. Let us remember that always. Let's share with this commission. This day, the Spirit of God waits on the threshold of our experience, waits to be embodied as always in response of human lives. So let us renew our commitment to be the vehicles of that Spirit, and let us go forth with joy to set that Spirit free in our daily living. No. Oh, I don't have, I'm not supposed to have one? Oh, this feels like a conspiracy. Oh. With amber care. Oh dear. God, now you know why I tell everybody how lucky I am and how much I love you. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. That is absolutely wonderful. And you will never be far away from me because I'll be talking about you all summer. So there you go. Feel the spirit, right?
Just a moment.
Could you have just a moment? Oh, see, she said she was coming to disrupt, and so she does. Absolutely, dear heart. Oh, you need a microphone. Where did I put? Well, you know, everybody. We got some people that have struggled a little bit with hearing. So, oh, Linda,
Hello.
thank you. That was awesome.
If I could just, for one moment, when we started conversing back and forth, emailing, and she told me about the theme of the authors and writers, her workshops. And then in Slave Lake, here's this crazy lady across the table from me whose name is Brenda. And I said, "What's your last name?" She said, "What?" "Oh my God, I know you. You have no idea who I am," because I was in the second row at the end. But workshops were wonderful. We talked stewardship. We were the doe in the headlights, you know. Anyway, stewardship. When she spoke about writers, what hit me about this morning, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but I'll look you up.
Kathy and Grant. Grant, sorry.
What I was so glad to
Grant
hear
and Susan.
was you had said that how you wished you had a journal to write your ideas down into. I hope this isn't a... Anyway, what happened is there's a table full of journals at the back with pens. We need to write our memories. We need to write our little bits of wisdom that we want to pass on. So I invite you to take a journal. On the inside is a little book plate. This is an afterthought, so please pick one up. And it goes something like, it begins with an ask. You have been asked to take some time to write, print, draw, copy, paste, and or tape a letter, quote, picture, article, photo into this Memories of You collection belonging to, and in this case, it's Brenda Watt. Now, I've written my little piece, and it was all about the stewardship thing. And the biggest memory I have of that, or the huge thing that I came away with that, was a hug from Brenda. Now, in my experience, when you give or get a hug, you embrace for a brief moment, and then you back away, and you continue in conversation. But not so with your hugs. I remember after we had embraced for that brief moment, and then went to back away, that she's not letting go. This is awkward. What do? Do I resume hugging? Or do I say, time's up? But it took me a while to figure it out. And I've come to this conclusion. I think you were genuinely happy to see me. And for that, I am grateful. So I do hope there will be other logs. I would like to leave this journal with somebody in the congregation to write their thoughts, pick a page. Every page has well, not every page, but there's a number of words throughout. I've used the alphabet, and when I see a letter, I try to think of a word that reminds me of Brenda. So if you see a word on a page, just write around it.
I'm afraid to ask what's under A.
Well, anyway, don't be afraid. So yes, I would like to leave this with somebody. I'll just pick the first one in the line, if you'd be so kind to.
Wow.
Perhaps write a memory for Brenda, or a thought, or something that you've come across, and put it in the album. So when she gets back, you've got what, 2 months, maybe a little more. When she gets back, my hope is that that book will be full of memories that she can take of you and you of her. And so that was my mission today. You'll see the table with the journals. Please help yourself to one. If you know somebody that you would like to see or read their memories, or if you think they need some memories that need to be written down, please feel free. There should be enough for everybody.
That's awesome. What an amazing gift, Becky. And I have to say, dear heart, turn around, that Bev and I have done nothing but talk about you since we met you. You were a gift to us, wasn't she? And the first or fourth bump, we're still trying to sort that one out, but in the picture, the bump on the log, yeah, but we will cherish that forever. And I have to say, you brought laughter and humor and joy into our conference experience, and we will love you forever for that. And you can have a hug anytime you want, on your terms, honey. Oh, hey. And one of the things that Becky is going to do is she's going to pipe us out. But first, we're going to celebrate Father's Day with some jokes. Yeah. Well, you might have to click it again. It should start automatically. Oh, come on.
Thanks, Daddy.
Hey!
Happy Father's Day. Let us greet our neighbors in the spirit of who we are as a community, and let awesome creation of the holy. And deep within each one of you is a gift to be discovered or nurtured and to be shared with the world, and you make it a better place. Of what it means to be in a community of faith that follow the teachings of Jesus, who makes us better people in the world. And you are inspired by that sense that we don't know where it comes from, but we feel within our very beings inspiration. And when we pay attention to it and capitalize on it, our gifts are materialized and are experienced by others. You carry all of these aspects of your faith with you as you go out into the world as people that I hold in my heart with the highest regard, the deepest respect, and the greatest amount of love. I wish you a safe summer, and I will love connecting with you again in the fall, and I will miss you every moment of that time that we are not together, but I will be so grateful. Amen and amen.